Red Polly.
Dusty.
Blue Poncho.
Tupac.
Street.
Hey, Wilson Hoosier. Hey, Elvis.
Blue 58. Go.
All right, everyone, here we go. Episode 17, week 14 of Health Matters, brought to you by the Predictors.com. All right, Brandon, take it away on the injury roundup. What do we got this week? Another notable week of injuries here in the NFL. And guess what? We're coming down to the finish line here. We got a lot of 7-6 teams that are going to be right on the bubble. And guess what? Health is going to matter.
Yeah, the playoffs right around the corner, a couple weeks coming in. So we had a bunch of big notable injuries this week. Tyler, what was our biggest one?
Yeah, thanks, Brandon. Well, the Chargers' struggles continue, this time with QB Justin Herbert. Fractured his right index finger. They're saying that this could potentially be season-ending, but looking for more tests. Doc, this is on that throwing hand. So, I see the possibility that it may actually end his season. And let's be honest, the Chargers at this point.
Yeah, the Chargers have had a rough go of it. I mean, they're much better on paper than they performed, and not the least of which has been their injuries and guess what? Their health. Well, Justin fractured his index finger, his throwing hand, and what we probably think it is, at least from our video analysis of the Predictors, is right here. It's called the PIP joint of the index finger. Guess what? Super important to grip the ball. Here you can see it here. It's right here, and this bone is very important to have stability and to be able to function, that these pieces here, because of the fracture, are reasonably well aligned. Many times you have to put a very small screw, sometimes even a tiny plate, to stabilize this joint so that it works well. These often also get very stiff after injury because you injure a very thick capsule that keeps this joint in place. And so there's a lot of rehab to work with this. So I'm really worried that Herbert's season's potentially over.
Yeah, that's going to be bad for them. They weren't doing too well, and they're on that playoff bubble. So losing him is going to get them out of this year's contention. The Vikings wide receiver Justin Jefferson, after 8 weeks, made his debut back from that hamstring injury just to take a big hit and get a chest injury. He ended up going to the hospital to rule out internal injuries. They're calling it a chest internal injury, but nothing major damaged. So hopefully he can be back fairly quickly.
Yeah, he definitely took a big hit on that play. He actually got up pretty quickly. He walked off under his own power, but you could definitely see just the location, the energy, the speed right in the lower part of the rib cage, upper abdomen. Obviously got to get tested. Number one, make sure there's no subtle rib fractures as well as internal organ damage. I think everything's been so far so good, but we'll wait this week to get additional word on Justin Jefferson, but hopefully he'll be back pretty quick. The problem, though, is with the contusions here, it could be a couple weeks before he's back to form, and I would say about 2 games if he doesn't have any breaks or no internal damage.
Yeah, let's hope that he's healthy and can get back on that field soon. It's tough missing him on that field since week 5. Next, we had Rams tight end Hunter Long. He was carted off with a significant knee injury in the 37-31 overtime loss to the Ravens.
Yeah, we'll wait on that MRI, see how he does. Tyler, what other quarterback were we missing this week?
Well, Seahawks quarterback Geno Smith had been dealing with a groin injury before the game. They worked him out prior. He was not able to go, so they had to start Drew Lock. Of course, they lost to the San Francisco 49ers, but that's tough. He's a dual-threat quarterback, so that groin injury can really hurt his mobility.
Yeah, and then the Texans' big play wide receiver Nico Collins, he went down with a calf injury, so we'll keep an eye out on him this week.
Yeah, let's talk about calves. The calf injury, there's a bunch of muscles back there. And if you look at Joe Burrow, it's pretty much one area that you can tweak with this, and it's the medial head of the gastroc, or the inner portion of the calf, the inner portion of your back part of that calf. And it's actually crosses the knee joint. It attaches above the knee joint. The muscle and tendon comes down and all the way down to the ankle. So guess what? That being on the medial or the inner side near where your big toe is, many times in the NFL, I would see this with toe push off, the ability to absorb energy on the turf, to be able to push off on the turf. And you saw it with Burrow. It takes a long time to get these to heal, but now he got back to form before he got injured again. But these calf injuries can be lingering and can be tough.
Yeah, they need him on the field too to finish the season, so hopefully he can push through that injury. On defense, we had 2 notable injuries. Tyler, tell us about those.
Yeah, Brown safety Grant Delpit suffered a groin injury, and Cowboys defensive end Jonathan Hankins was carted off, and they're thinking that's a high ankle, just another high ankle injury in the NFL. These seem to be running rampant currently.
Yeah, definitely so. So keep an eye out on your defenses for fantasy stuff as well, and just watch out for more injuries as we go through the week. Concussion protocol, Ryan, who we got this week? I know we got a major player in the concussion protocol.
Yeah, the biggest player that went into the protocol this week was Texans quarterback CJ Stroud. He took a hard hit his head hard on the turf, and he was unable to return to the game. Is in the protocol currently. It's tough for the Texans as they just lost Nico Collins this week and then Tank Dell last week as well. Really tough blow for them. And then we also had Rams wide receiver Tutu Atwell. He also took a tough hit and went into the protocol this week.
All right, everyone. Bunch of injuries, bunch of things going on. As we get down the stretch here, this is super important because the Predictors.com shows that health matters, and it's going to be really important if your team makes the playoff or not.
Yeah, keep a lookout, guys. Hey, fantasy time. Tyler, fantasy time. Tell us about some fantasy news.
Yeah, well, we always look at the guys who are injured going into these games. And this week, Derek Carr, who had the string of injuries last week between a concussion, which is the one that coach said was holding him back, but he also had been dealing with that shoulder injury. They had a rib/back injury. He ended up with 11.7 points, went 18 for 26, 119 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. 11.7 points isn't exactly what you want to see out of your quarterback, but was actually, I believe, the best that he's put up in the last 3 or 4 weeks. So it seemed that it wasn't affecting him too much. They did get that win, but definitely something to keep a watch on.
Yeah, I did read this morning he's been battling 3 fractured ribs all season, so that's been kind of a ongoing injury for him that nobody really knows about. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. The Jets running back, Breece Hall, he was coming off a little bit of an ankle injury. He exploded for 26 points, 10 rushes, 40 yards, 9 catches, 86 yards, and a TD. He was Zach Wilson's favorite target in that blowout win for those guys.
Yeah, another player that was hurt going into this week was Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence. He had that scary ankle injury last week where, honestly, no one was sure if he was actually going to be able to play this week or not. He ended up putting up 20.3 points, up from his season average of 17. He went 28 for 50, 257 yards, and also had 3 rushes for 11 in the 31-27 loss to the Browns.
He did have 3 picks, though, so keep an eye on that. That'll always hurt you on the fantasy side.
Yeah, definitely after coming off that injury, maybe something there with those 3 interceptions. Listen, fantasy playoffs are coming up either this coming week. Some people may have already started, but make sure that you're checking out the Predictors.com website for the predicted fantasy points and all the other injury and performance data that's going to help you win.
Yeah, thanks for that, Tyler. Keep an eye out on the fantasy side at the Predictors.com. Monday night, we have 2 games tonight, people. 2 games to watch. Big fun night. Some interesting games. We got the Packers versus the Giants. Who wants to take the preview on this one?
Well, I could start us off if you want. Green Bay is going to be they have the toughest test, I think. Everyone would say no because of the Giants, but on the injury side of things, they're dealing with a lot on their team. Christian Watson, a huge piece of that puzzle, and Aaron Jones, who we all know has been battling his injury throughout this season. And then Jair Alexander, who's one of the best cornerbacks in the league, also out for them. So that's going to be a tougher test than I think some people think.
Yeah, we'll wait to the 90-minute inactive list, but it doesn't look like Aaron Jones is going to be ready to go tonight.
Yeah, and Christian Watson, he's going to be game time as well. So, but on the Giants side, they're missing 2 key pieces in the trenches, that starting tackle Evan Neal and starting DN Deshaun Robinson. So with Robinson out, maybe they won't get that QB pass rush they normally have. So Jordan Love can find some time to make some plays. We'll see what happens. The other big game, the Dolphins versus the Titans. Miami, the big questions, will Terran Armstead play? What do you think on this one, Tyler?
Well, they're going to hopefully have him, but if not, then their offensive line is pretty banged up. And that's going to be something that the Titans are really going to want to exploit because, they have some issues in their secondary. So the more pressure that they can get on Tua, the better it will be for them. and let the guys coming in for those quarterbacks have a chance.
Yeah, Titans defensive end Jeffrey Simmons, who some players are calling NFL Player of the Year on defense, he's out, so that's going to hurt that pass rush as well. So that'll be a fun little coaching battle with all the injury issues to see how they scheme it up. All right, let's look ahead to Week 15. We got a big game, Denver, Detroit. The Broncos making that push. Ryan, tell us about the Broncos.
Yeah, the Broncos, they've been playing pretty well the last few weeks. They've been pulling out a few wins. I mean, they beat the Chiefs. They've been playing well. They've been getting healthier this season. Right going into this week, they were 7th in the banged up score. They had a bus score of 81.8. It's pretty solid. Well, meanwhile, Detroit, they haven't been playing too well. They've been getting banged up recently. Their bus score has been going down to 73.9. So definitely a big health matchup that we're looking at for this week.
Yeah, we'll see how the week pans out with these two teams, and who's practicing and who's not, and who's questionable on the final list, because that's really going to matter for this game. You got to see if the Lions show up. I mean, it's sometimes they show up, sometimes they don't. They've got this really enviable record in the NFL with a lot of 7-6 teams, and they're way ahead of that. But the other teams are catching up, nipping at their heels, and we're going to have to find out who's going to show up. But the Broncos' health, it matters. They've had an incredible health score throughout, always been top 10, and they're continuing to trend up. So be wary of those Broncos down the road here.
Tyler, any comments on the Broncos? I know you're about in Cali now, not Colorado, but what are you thinking?
Well, since the Broncos beat us when I was with the Patriots, I am not a fan, but that's okay. Hey, you know what? They are playing fantastic. They are proving what they said preseason now, and really getting into the swing of things. Cortland Sutton has been playing amazing for them on offense. I think if they can get Jerry Jeudy in that mix, then they really will have something going on offense there.
Gotcha. Yeah, we're pulling for the Colorado team out here in Vail. So looking to the other game we want to preview, the Vikings and the Bengals. The Vikings, can they catch a break, Tyler?
Brandon, if you had told me a few weeks ago that Cincinnati was going to be without Joe Burrow and they were going to be playing the Vikings, I would have said the Vikings would beat them by 20 or more. But the way the Vikings played this weekend in that 3-0 game, and the way the Bengals and Browning have been playing, this is honestly a toss-up. The Vikings are another team that I feel like they either show up or they don't. They're pretty inconsistent. They're super banged up. Justin Jefferson going out, obviously had lost Kirk Cousins and Alexander Madison this past game with that ankle injury. So this is something that, they're going to have to, the trainers on the team, the medical staff is really going to have to work hard, see who they can get back for this game, because I don't think it's going to be an easy test for them.
Yeah, and the Bengals are definitely killing the Vikings on the banged up score. With their 5th in the league at 83.1, where the Vikings are 17th at 73.9. And yeah, with the Bengals winning yesterday with Jake Browning, they're really carrying that momentum, and I don't think the Vikings really have any momentum anymore.
Yeah, they came out of yesterday unscathed. Didn't see much on the injury report for the Bengals, so that's going to be a fun week to watch, see if anyone sneaks out of there and see how they do. It's going to be a good week this week on Week 15 football.
All right, everyone, thanks for listening. Stay tuned all week. Health's really starting to matter as we get down the final stretch here. Fantasy, super important as you get into the final playoff run with your fantasy teams and just your team getting into the playoffs. Health matters. Check us out at thepredictors.com.